All right, let's dive into what might be the single most important skill you can build for your career and honestly, for your life. We're talking about continuous learning. The world is changing so fast, and the ability to adapt isn't just a nice to have anymore. It's pretty much a requirement just to stay in the game. So, let's get into it.
So let's just start with a tough question right out of the gate. Are your skills future-proof? I know, it's a question that can make you a little anxious, can it? I mean, tech is always shifting, entire industries are pivoting, and the hot skill from yesterday could be totally obsolete tomorrow. The real question isn't about predicting the future, because who can do that? It's about whether you're ready to adapt, no matter what comes.
Because here's the deal. In this world of non-stop, crazy fast change, standing still is actually the same thing as falling behind. It's kind of like you're on one of those moving walkways at the airport, but it's going the wrong way. If you're not actively walking forward, you are literally being carried backward. The people who are always looking for new things to learn, they're the ones who adapt faster. They see opportunities that everyone else misses, and yeah, they're the ones who stay relevant.
Okay, so how do we start walking forward? Well, it all starts with our first big principle, your mindset. You got to see this as the absolute foundation. It's the engine that powers everything else we're going to talk about. Seriously, without the right mindset, even the most brilliant strategies are just going to fall flat. So let's get clear on what lifelong learning really means. The keywords here are ongoing, voluntary, and self-motivated. This isn't about some boring mandatory training your boss makes you do or cramming for a test. No way. This is a choice. It's a fundamental decision to see learning as a part of who you are, a journey you're always on, not some destination you hit when you get a diploma. And this mindset, it gets real when we turn it into daily habits. And it really just boils down to these three things. First, you commit to it daily. This doesn't have to be some huge thing. It could be learning a new keyboard shortcut or understanding a concept from an article you read. It all adds up. Second, you gotta stay curious. Look outside your little bubble. And third, reflect. Don't just have an experience and move on, especially when you mess up. Those aren't failures, they're data points. They're telling you how to grow. And that really gets to the core of why being curious is such a superpower. It's not just for fun. It directly fuels the skills that everyone is looking for right now. When you're curious, you're naturally more creative. You're way more adaptable when things get chaotic. And you are far, far more likely to be the person who comes up with that game-changing idea. So having a powerful mindset is step one, for sure. But without a plan, it's just wishful thinking, right? That's why we need a strategy. This is how we turn that internal drive into actual, tangible progress that you can see. This is our second principle. A good strategy always starts with focus because you just can't learn everything at once. So start by making a list. What skills do you need for the job you have today? And more importantly, for the one you want tomorrow? Then you've got to be ruthless. Prioritize the skills that will have the biggest impact. And finally, aim for balance. Technical skills might get you the interview, but it's the soft skills, communication, leadership, that's what's going to help you really succeed. Now, a really key part of your strategy is knowing how you learn. And look, there is a massive difference between passive learning, like watching this, or reading an article, and active practice. Taking in information is the first step, of course, but you only truly master something when you apply it. You can read 100 books on how to give a great speech, but you won't actually get any better until you get up there and start talking. So when you put all this together, it means you need to build a really diverse learning toolkit. Don't just rely on one thing. You want to combine that formal learning you get from, say, online courses with the deep insights you get from books. But then you turbocharge all of that by finding mentors, learning from your friends and colleagues, and this is the big one, applying your new skills to actual real-world projects. That is where knowledge really becomes expertise. And that idea of learning from other people, well, it leads us perfectly into our third and final principle, your network. Look, if your mindset is the engine and your strategy is the map, then your network is the turbocharger. Learning is just not a solo sport. It's a team sport, 100%. So how do you build this learning accelerator? Well, you can start by joining communities where people share your interests. Professional groups, online forums, maybe a local meetup. But here's the key. Don't just be a wallflower. The real magic happens when you actually participate. Share what you know, work with other people on stuff, and get into discussions that challenge how you think. It's in those moments that the real growth happens. Let me give you an example. Imagine you're a software developer and you spend like 6 hours wrestling with this one super frustrating bug in your code. Finally, you figure it out. Great, you solved one bug.
But now imagine you're in a community. You post your problem, and 5 minutes later, someone points out that you're using an old technique. Not only do you solve your bug instantly, but you learn a whole new, better way of working that stops you from ever making 10 similar bugs in the future. See? That is the exponential power of a learning network. So the huge takeaway here is this. These three things, mindset, strategy, and network, they don't just add to each other, they multiply each other. Your mindset is the fuel, your strategy is the map, and your network is the accelerator. When you put them all together, you create this incredible, unstoppable engine for your own growth. And so we're going to end right where we began, with a question. But this time, it's not about being anxious or worried. It's about action. The only thing left to ask yourself is, what will you learn next?